Hi friends, welcome and or welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley if this is your first time here, and if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. It is a new year. It is January 1st, 2025, and we are going to get into my favorite reads of 2024. I feel like last year was an up and down roller coaster of reads for me. I started the year out strong reading, preparing for a Polycon, and then I feel like the reads kind of just went downhill. Maybe I didn't have as much time because I was working toward a book deadline or what have you. But when I look back on my reading year for 2024, I don't feel like there were a ton of like standout reads. When I pulled the books that I wanted to feature in my favorites list, it felt like there should be more there. I just don't think that there was anything that just really stood out as like my top read of the year. So in this video, I'm going to give you my stats for 2024. I am going to give you my honorable mentions, and then we're going to get to my favorites of 2024. Okay, starting off with my stats for 2024, I did complete 80 books last year, and that added up to 28,070 pages read. I don't even know what my pages like read goal was on StoryGraph. I think I always overestimate how many pages I'm actually reading, but that seems to be a lot. I definitely lowered that goal for the year. The month that I read the most books was September, and that checks out because September is the month that I participated in the Mystic Readathon. I had the best time with that. I would actually love to be involved in more readathons this year if I can make it happen. I haven't seen any circulate for the new year, but I also haven't really been looking because I'm on a bit of a break. But that was my highest reading month. I believe my lowest reading month, it's probably December because I only completed 2 books. My brain was like, no more. Take a break, take a rest. But I'm feeling like I'm getting back into it. I'm feeling better starting the year off. The genres that I spent the most time with in 2024 was romance, with that being over 60 of the books that I read. Fantasy was included in about 40 of the books that I read. Contemporary was a little over 20 of the books that I read. And then I had LGBTQIA+ and erotica being in that like 10 to 20 books of that genre being featured in what I was reading. The longest book that I read was Crescent City House of Flame and Shadow, and I finished that in February, and it was 835 pages long. And we're just gonna leave that there. And then the shortest book that I read is An Encore of Roses, which is actually like a little novella that is featured in one of my favorite books of the year. The average length of the books that I was reading was 352 pages, and it took me an average of 7 days to complete each book. And one of the stats that I found very interesting here is my buddy read stat, and it is 5 buddy reads completed, and I would be willing to bet they are all with my friend Kathleen, and I do know 3 of the 5 books listed in my top of the year were buddy reads that I did with Kathleen. Maybe there's a correlation there. Okay, so now that we've gotten through the stats portion of this video, let's hop right into my honorable mentions list. I feel like these books probably in a different year, or if I was in a different mood reading them, could have actually joined my top reads of the year, but they didn't. So we're just gonna get into those. So the first book that I want to talk about is King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. This book I read in preparation for a Polycon, and I absolutely adored it. I would say out of all the books that are in this honorable mentions list, this is the book that was on the teetering point for me on whether or not I wanted to list it as a favorite or if it was just going to be an honorable mention. This book was so good. I 100% plan to reread this book again because I did pick up book 2, and I'm pretty sure that the author is going to be releasing book 3 either this year or early next year, and I'm very excited to continue on. This book does end in a bit of a cliffhanger. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the end, but it's packed with information. It's very fast paced. There are so many twists and turns in this book. I really enjoyed this book, and I look forward to picking it up again and continuing the series. The next book that I'm going to mention is A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Catherine Moon, and this was a wild ride. I actually think that I bought the physical book for my friend Whitney for Christmas in 2023, and out of whim, I picked it up at the beginning of 2024 because I knew the author was going to be at a Polycon, and I just wanted something different, and boy, did I get different. This book was so good. I initially read it on KU, and then when I got to a Polycon, I was like, I'm gonna buy the whole series. I want to own the whole series. I knew I definitely wanted to own this book, but this is so good. It's like historical erotica, and it's erotica. So, I mean, it's spicy, but there is a storyline that takes place through here, and I'm pretty sure that the thread goes in throughout the entire series, just from what I've read on the back of the books. It's always interesting to me when I see like the polyamorous relationship, how the author weaves the needle of making each character feel like a separate person, and how, like, I'm gonna call her the female amongst the men, how she acts and treats each partner that she has. And I just think this was done exceptionally well. If you are used to reading spicier things and you are used to like erotica, but you've never read like a Why Choose book, I do think that this book is a good one to pick up, which is why it's on my honorable mentions list of the year. And then the next book on my honorable mentions list is Wicked Beauty by Katie Roberts. I have not read a book in this series, the Dr. Limpis series, that I have not enjoyed, and this was right up there. Another Why Choose situation, just 3 people though. Yeah, still Why Choose. And it was fun. It was a good time. I think the only thing that these books have that I've noticed is that it takes me a little bit to get into them, but then once I'm in them, it's like I don't want to put it down. But this book was very surprising to me because I think I had tried to read it one time before and then had to stop, and then I got back into it and I did not want to put it down, like I said. So it didn't hook me immediately, but once I was locked in, I was locked in, and I really enjoyed it. I love what Katie Roberts does with her characters, and I cannot wait to read more from her. I have 2 more books that I want to include on my honorable mentions list. Both of these books I do not own physically. I own them on my Kindle. The first book is Learn Your Lesson by Candy Steiner. This is part of the Kings of the Ice series. It's a hockey series, and I really enjoyed this. It has the single dad trope, nanny, sexy lessons. It is a lot, and I think it was done very well. It did have one trope that I do not care for, which is like the people pleasing, have to abide by what my family wants and wants out of my life. Not a fan of that trope, but I feel like this book handled it very good. I would even venture to say that of the 3 books that Candy has released in this series, this one is my favorite, and I would highly recommend. I remember giving it 5 stars in July whenever I read it. It was like I read this and Wicked Beauty back to back, so I was just living my best life in my reading world. But Learn Your Lesson is fantastic. And then the last book that I want to list on my honorable mentions is The Dare by Holly LaRue. This book has sat on my Kindle for literal months, and I just knew I wanted something quick and spicy to read, just maybe to try to jumpstart my reading. And so I picked this book up, and it gave me so much more than I could have ever asked for, to the point that like I read The Dare and then I read Losers Part 1 and Losers Part 2. I enjoyed this book. The Dare is a standout if you want a quick novella to read and get through and just have a nice little spicy time. I highly recommend that book. Okay, now that we have gone through my honorable mentions, it's time to talk about my favorite reads of the year. There are only 5 books that made the list, so let's just hop right into them. The first book that I'm going to speak about is Minx by Sophie Lark. And this book, what I would say, is probably the shocker of the year. Could it be a shocker? I knew it was like a billionaire romance situation, and I love those. They are top reads for me. I was thinking that it was going to be far more on the kinkier side, and a kink that I'm just not really sure I want to read about, but it gave me so much more. Like, you could really see the character building in both the female and the main male character, the story about how they get together, like the arrangement, the falling for each other, just everything. I got everything that I wanted from this book. I did not need more. When I thought I wanted more, Sophie Lark delivered at the end of the book. I just loved it so much. This was a buddy read. It is all tapped up. It is definitely a book that I will revisit. It is such a quick move-in book. The female empowerment, the feminism, the he falls first and harder, the absolute spoiling that goes on in this book is just everything that I asked for in a billionaire romance. I had a fantastic time with this book, and I implore you to read it. Add Minx by Sophie Lark to your 2025 reading list if you have not already. If you have, reread it. Have a good time. Enjoy. I plan to. The next 2 books I am going to talk about together because they are part of the same series, and this should not come as a surprise if you have been watching any of my videos throughout the past year, and that is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings and Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. What could I say other than I absolutely love these books? This one came as a shock. Everything that I had heard about this book, I thought, this is not going to be for me. I didn't know what to expect, but me and Kathleen decided to buddy read it, and I love this book so much. I love this book so much so that I bought the next 2 in the series, and I immediately jumped into Daisy Hates. This book left me mouth agape, shocked, heart torn out, sad. Like, this introduced me to my sad girl era of reading, and I want more. I remember vividly closing this book and just being in shock, and my husband literally saying, "It's okay, it's just a book." And it's like, no, it's not just a book. These are real people. Like, what? How am I supposed to go on living when this stuff is happening in a book? And then this book takes place in the same timeline with a different couple, but as much as I love this book, she takes the cake if I have to pick a favorite child, because what? Daisy Hates? Christian Hames? Are you for real right now? Like, Daisy is everything I feel like I would be if I was the daughter of a mafia boss and was running in the same circles of socialites. This is who I feel like I would be. In the way Jessa writes these characters, particularly in this book, and then you have like the little in-book annotations from Daisy to get her inner thoughts. I loved it. Your Honor, it's probably the top read for me. We have plans, okay? We have plans to move on to books 3 and find out what's going on in Magnolia's world, but I love them. I love them so much. Love them. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Block Shot by Kennedy Ryan. This is year 2 that a Hoop series books has made it to my top reads of the year. Last year, Long Shot was my favorite book of the year. This book is right up there with Long Shot. I was so happy with where this book went. The plot twist of this book, Kennedy Ryan, your mind, your pen is unmatched. This book, I was scared going into it. I was like, second book syndrome, is that what we're gonna feel? I don't want to feel that. I did not feel that. This couple was completely different from the couple of book 1, and you could feel the change and the difference. You could feel the angst in this book. You could feel every decision that the characters were going through. I cannot wait to continue this series. Again, I love Kennedy Ryan's writing, period. The writing in these have just been immaculate. She does not leave you wanting more. She keeps you engaged throughout the whole story. The pages were literally turning themselves. Read the book, read the series, start the series. Do not wait any longer. I'm going to finish this series and cement it as one of my favorite series of all times. I already know that's coming. So yes, Block Shot by Kennedy Ryan. The last book that has made my favorites list of 2024 came as a shocker for me, but I was instantly hooked, and that is A Dowry of Blood by St. Gibson. This book was such a fun time. I read this during the readathon in September, and I picked it up because of course it was a vampire book. I was on Team Vampire, and I saw it as being like a very quick get in, get out book, but I tandem read this. I listened to it and I read it with my eyes, and Your Honor, she's perfect. It's short, it's action-packed, it has different characters with different personalities, and they blend together so well. It tells a story over centuries. Like, this book is so short, and it tells a story over centuries and keeps you engaged the entire time. It is told in a series of diary entries, and it does not leave you wanting more. It is very engaging and vibrant, and I love this book so much. This edition is my Fairy Loot edition, and it came with the little encore, like the short, like 14 or 15 page novella. It's just like a little snapshot of closer to present day and like where these characters are, and it was just as fabulous. But yes, this is a favorite book of this year. I would highly recommend it. If you're looking for a book to already add to your spooky season reads, let this be the one. It's quick, it's gritty, it gets the job done, and I don't have any more to say other than I just loved it so much. It's so short, I don't want to give anything away, but the audiobook of this is just as good as reading it physically. A Diary of Blood by St. Gibson. Alright, and with that, we have come to the end of this video. If you have made it this far, in the comments below, leave me your favorite book of 2024. I would love to know what stood out to you. If you can't pick just one, leave me a few, and maybe I'll get some recs for things that I should pick up this year. If you like this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you are not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I have a goal this year. I would love to hit 1,000 subscribers. And if you are liking the content that I'm providing here, make sure that you share with your friends and family and all your bookish buddies so that we can continue to build this amazing community here on YouTube. And that is all for me. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.